every time we hear the child is a leader of the future, the child is a mother of the nation, is a mother of the nation. And so, yes, we need to get them ready for the 21st century, really. We are looking at children who will no longer just think that literacy means ability to read and write. It must move beyond that.
Welcome once again to UNICAL Radio International 103.5 FM, the trusted hub for audio infotainment 360, where education, information, and entertainment meets. This morning, we bring you a very special interview. Our guest today is a trailblazer in the university community, an administrator and a respected scholar, Professor Eno Grace Nta, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Administration at the University of Calabar. On Wednesday, the 10th of September 2025, she will step onto the podium to deliver her inaugural lecture, intriguingly titled, "And a Little Child Shall Lead Them, Pruning Cobwebs in Child Discourse in a Changing World." This morning, we have the privilege of getting to know the woman behind the scholarship, exploring the inspiration behind this powerful theme, and giving you, our listeners, an exclusive glimpse into the promises of what thought-provoking and enlightening presentation. Professor Nta, it is an honor to have you with us this morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Ma. How are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I know you're happy about the lecture coming up on Wednesday. It's been an exciting lecture. I can't wait for the lecture. So how are you feeling about the lecture?
Oh, well, trying to get there because there are so many things that go given the lecture.
Yes,
but yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I want to be one of the first people to say congratulations on the upcoming lecture. Could you briefly share with us what this lecture means in your academic journey and what inspired your specialization?
Actually, the lecture is on discourse, which means I just love working with children, really, listening to them, trying to understand what's happening in their minds. But basically, because I am in language studies, my department, we have literature and we have language. And we started really with literature because we're supposed to be a department of African literature studies, as it were. The language arm, therefore, came in slowly, but it had always also been there. So I am in the language studies area. Now, in terms of language, mostly we think of language as purely linguistic. That is, we talk of grammar, we talk of what kinds of words we are using. We are looking at how we build up those words into sentences. But for me, they are useful, definitely, but they can be made to function beyond. Is it correct or incorrect? Mm-hmm. I was more interested in, are we making sense? Can I understand what the child is saying? Mm-hmm. Can the child also understand me? How do we make progress? And so that took me, because I'm in language acquisition, so that took me into looking more closely at how the Nigerian child especially is grappling with understanding and using the English language. And so that is what discourse really is, talking about how we use it, how we communicate, how we get our thoughts and ideas across, and also help to shape our understanding of the world.
Well, that's really amazing. But beyond your duty as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Administration, is there any personal motivation that drives this connection for education with children and the society?
Oh, this had always been the main driving force for me as it went, because practically everything I have done, if I were to take all my publications and put them on the scale, you will find that perhaps 80% deal directly with children in one form or the other. Beyond that, of course, is my poetry. I also do a lot is on children. Then, of course, other things I do. I had a reading club for the children. It was called Reading Cherubs.
Yes.
And that club, I had lots, in fact, I had over 600 titles of books that I had to acquire. Buying, collecting, harassing some people sometimes, especially members of my family.
Wow.
And to make sure that every child that came my way would have something to hold and read. And I told my children then that my dream was that every child should be able to access 100 books.
Wow.
From the time you are in pre-nursery or, kindergarten, to when you finish, say, GS3. So all the children knew, even those that were 2-year-old, they knew that if they came, they would always find something. Those fluffy books, and so I got to know all those people who bring you containers of books, and they will just call me up and say, we have new books for you. And I will rush them. So yes, it's something I had always loved to. And so I think it's that my passion merged with an academic area. I could give it more room. And then, of course, because I was also in the Reading Association of Nigeria, that took me beyond even the children, because when we're talking of the children, we're also looking at the teachers. How do they teach? How do they engage the children? And so, in fact, we had a project that took us to Akpabio. That is, I was on the team with Professor Stella Ekpen, Professor Moses Nyamabia, Professor Gabriel Egbe, myself. I'm trying to remember who other persons were involved in that project, but we were always going to Akpabio, to all the village schools and all of this, and then organizing the teachers, trying to train them on how they could make their classes more exciting for the children. I mean, that was one good thing with RAN. So many colorful things that we had coming in, and getting our children to also write their own stories and getting some of them published. So that was a good thing for us. And that merged with my interest in working with children, so I never had any problems that way.
Okay, yeah. The title of your lecture is "An Elite Child Shall Lead the Pruning Cobwebs in the Child Discourse in the Changing World." Could you break this title down into simpler terms? And what do you mean by pruning cobwebs? Because when you hear pruning, people think like the farm setting, but we're talking of academics here.
You see, now you want me to give a brief on the lecture. Then what will they find when they come there on that day?
They will find a lot. They will find a lot more.
No, they're supposed to come and see what those cobwebs are. What are the cobwebs? How can they be pruned? And he said, the child, every time we hear the child is a leader of the future, the child is a mother of the nation, is a mother of the nation. And so, yes, we need to get them ready for the 21st century. We are looking at children who will no longer just think that literacy means ability to read and write. It must move beyond that. Okay, but it is a fundamental.
Yes,
the child still needs to be able to read and write. But beyond that, what are the other types of literacies that will be relevant in the 21st century? Now that we are talking of AI and we are talking of globalization, they are calling themselves Gen Zs. Now I understand it's not even Gen Alpha anymore, that we now have Gen Beta.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe by the end of that century, they would have moved right down to Z again. But whatever it is, how prepared are our children? And that is one of the areas that we are looking at in the lecture.
Now, why do you think it's important to focus on child discourse now, especially in the changing world?
Because the world is changing so quickly. I can remember how many years ago we didn't have handsets. How many years ago we would have to queue up to make calls. How many years ago we would only write letters and expect to have responses. Now, some of those skills are disappearing because the world is changing so quickly. Now, even in terms of the handset, it will soon become obsolete. Now you are using your wristwatch, we are using all kinds of things, and we are trying to catch up. What we are saying is, this world is changing. It's not waiting for us. It is saying, you welcome, or you are left behind. And we don't want our children to be left behind. However, in talking about not wanting them to be left behind, we're also conscious of our moral and ethical issues that come up with the changing world. How also do we handle them? So the cobwebs will come with different forms of what you think you know and don't know, of what you think you are looking for and may get or may not get, of what you have and don't even appreciate, and all of that.
Yes, just like the cobwebs, there are different dimensions, different sections. So you need to really look into it to know how to prune it, to know how to cut it down. Yes. And the lecture is expected to speak to the academic community and the wider public without giving so much away, because I know you want us to come, be present, and enjoy the lecture. What message or idea do you hope to resonate with parents, children, educators, and especially policymakers?
It is that every policy that we are coming up with, we should take our time and look at the various dimensions. Some sound very nice on paper, but we have to ask ourselves, are they workable? Can we get these things going? Or do we just make pronouncements and they end there? Take, for example, now WAEC is saying we are going to go ICT for WAEC exams. We also need to plan. How prepared are we? What about that child in my village? What about that child that they are just struggling to even get a meal in a day? So what are we putting in place to assist? But I do know that government is doing a lot. So I'm just saying that each time we plan, we should look at impact on how it affects the child in terms of where that child is coming from, the home background, the social or societal needs at that point in time, the economic resources for what we are planning, and where exactly, in fact, if we are talking about ICT, what of power? Okay, how many people really have access to it? Wi-Fi or and all of that. So there are so many things, and that means yes. But from the point of view of the family, and in fact the society, I think just last week I saw something on social media, no doubt, where someone was taking on a pastor or reverend or whatever and saying, you see the children that you labeled as being witches and wizards, the ones that you label, how many of them survived the labeling? Do you know how many were killed because you convinced gullible, maybe irresponsible parents into thinking that there was something wrong with their children?
Yes, and these children become ostracized from the society.
Good. Ostracized, and some were actually deliberately killed because that was what you were leading them to. Now, who takes responsibility? Where was government when these things were happening? What was the response from the society itself? Why did it need to take someone from elsewhere coming in to try and save those children? And today, we are very happy to present those kids to the world and say, these ones are Nigerians. What makes a child a Nigerian? Where does the responsibility lie? Who speaks up for the child? It is true, we thank God we have the Child Protection Rights now Act, that takes care of the child. But that act will not go into the home. Who is it? It is a good thing we say, if you see something, say something, do something. But for too long, we have not been saying, we have not been doing, we have pretended not to see. And so, can our conscience be awake now to do the things we should do for our children?
In your view, what are the common misconceptions, cobwebs that society have about children that I think if we're ready for conversations, those are the first conversations we should have, because we should be able to tell society that no, because you say it begins at home, it begins with us, the change you want to see. begins with us. So what are these things that we need to tell the people around us? That's where we find ourselves, the society, the environment where we find ourselves. What are the things we need to tell other people that will help with the discourse about the child, help the child know that, oh, I am wanted here and I am seen here?
Well, it is, like you said, it's starting from the home.
Yes.
And so if the home, the child is not given a voice, is not allowed to share his or her views on things, is always asked to shut up and just stay there, then of course we know that we are already breeding something that is not healthy. Then again is that in the traditional setup, sometimes you are talking about a child. The child is there, and you keep referring to the child in the third person. He doesn't know anything. I don't even know all this one, whether you are just wasting money sending him to school. You have not said anything positive to the child and about the child. So there is a lot of abuse, and a lot of it is psychological. We always tend to think that it is the one that is flawed that is a problem. The ones that we speak very terrible things to and about and accuse them. And when the child wants to speak, say, no, I'm not interested. Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. What time do you really have for the child? We talk of quality time. Then in the society, once we just start with this line of narrative, the next thing you know is there is someone who is willing to pick it up in the society and label the child. And, then there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of name calling, there's a lot of all of these things. And we see that the society is changing in terms of it's no longer people from one ethnic group. Even in the villages, we find that other people are moving in and some are moving out. Let's take the urban center, Calabar here. If you go to Etalbo, which is our neighborhood, you'll find in those yards, if you just go on Akum and you are going towards IBB, you think you just see a row of shops. My dear, in between the shops, you'll find a little alley that takes you into a big yard, a big compound. That is what we call a yard. And in that compound, you will find as many as 20 families living there. They are not drawn from the same place. The children now learn to interact. They learn to observe what's happening in the various family holdings and all of that. And they are learning to negotiate. They are learning they are picking up values. And we are saying, what values are they picking up? They are also picking up ideologies. Whose ideology? Who's guiding it? What's pushing it? And they are picking up some very good things and some very terrible things. You may just go into some yards and you find 6-7-year-olds experimenting with drugs and all kinds of things. Who is giving them? How are they accessing those things? Then you go to another yard. I've been to a yard where we discovered a group of children ranging age-wise, ranging from like 10 down to 5 or 4. They were not in school. And yet we have public primary schools around. And the problem now was, who was supposed to tell these children go to school? The child will not wake up and say, I'm going to school, because the child has never had any idea of school. And this is in the town. What about in the villages? I've had to work with children in the villages. I've worked with them in 3 different villages, really, outside of Cross River.
Yes.
And I discovered that by the time the kids, I was working with them from their primary 1 up to primary 6 in public primary schools in the 3 villages. By the time they were getting to primary 3, primary 4, because my work was really to get them to be able to read. So I was feeding them with materials and all of that. As soon as the children could read and write, some parents were taking them out. And they will take out the child, say from primary 4, to another school to go and write common entrance or whatever, and push the child into secondary school. They are clueless as to what the curriculum does for a child. That they are building blocks that enable the child to be able to engage in critical thinking, in more serious work, They are only looking at, okay, this child can now read. John is a boy, Janet is a girl, and you push the child out. Are you really helping the child? So these are some of the things that are ongoing. Of course, I know when JAM came up with, if your child is under 16, the child will not be allowed to write. Everybody's screamed and all that. And then they now said the child must score not less than 300, and I think 320 or thereabout, before the child will be accepted as, But you are also finding that in some cases, you also have another problem there. You have the child who is scoring 320 in JAM, and then comes the school side that shows credit. If you are so smart, if you can score that high, I would also expect you to have A's and B's in your exam. So what is it telling us? Was there some assistance? At which one? Sometimes it will be excellent result from WAEC, and then JAM comes and we find that the child falls flat. So these are all part of the ongoing thing. But basically we are saying that for our children to be able to stand their ground and say, to maintain some kind of integrity, when the stupid adult comes and says, give me money, I will do it for you, the child says, no, I want to go it myself. We want to have strong boys and girls, strong in terms of character, in terms of wanting to confront and challenge whatever comes, take on those challenges, not to be seen as, it was what my uncle said, and my auntie, this was what my auntie said I should do. What do you want to do? Then the child would have had it for
independent mind, very strong and
very strong and independent mind. So those are the children we need for the future.
Prof, how do you see the role of children involving in shaping the future of our community and nation? And also, what kind of conversations should we begin to have today, this very day, if we are going to prepare children for the tomorrow's world?
Yeah, so we should have things like some kind of clubs that allow them to be expressive. For too long, I think we had thought that the shift was supposed to be for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But now we are realizing that it has to be for STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Because if you don't have arts, all of those sciences will fall flat. Even the greatest invention, when you are watching all the things that they say AI, or I remember that for us, when we were younger, we'll be talking about, what do we call it now? Sky. No, not buildings now. In terms of those things where you explore the planets, where you are.
Skyrockets.
Yes, and trying to get out of, and all of that. They came more like comics, more like, that children will read. And then you will look at, you say, this is not possible. Then they will now come again saying, a car that can fly, And we say, how can a car fly? All of these were coming from creative minds. They were not from the scientists. And so they bring up all of these kind of things, and then the scientists now pick it and say, wow, let's see, is it possible? And they all start working. So we need the arts, we need the science, and for the world to be the kind of place. But above all, we need a safe place. Safe from cyberbullying, from sexting, from abuse in whatever form. We need a safe place where the child can go and learn. So we need teachers that are committed, not teachers that go to school and are busy running businesses. You see some, as they are driving into school, they open their boots, and what do you find? Oh, they are come with an array of snacks. They've come, all they want to do is sell, get money. They are not really teaching. Not all teachers. We have some very dedicated teachers. Yes. But we also have those whose business should not be in the schools, at all. And all of that. I think it's just that, is it systemic failure? System failure. We find everywhere we turn to. But maybe our population grew so fast, so quickly, and the world exploded on us. Because before, we could say, this is the one I'm looking at. But now, before you even press the button, so the world is on us, right in our
Yes, it's moving quickly, it's moving so fast. I'm not expecting this to happen, and it's happening.
It's moving so quickly, and it's moving into our space.
Yes.
Because the minute you have your handset, you're already in the world. And so you think, that child is innocent. That child doesn't understand. The child probably understands much more than you could ever think of. And when the child looks at you and looks, the way they would roll their eyes at you, and you think that, you don't know that. Well, the children have already started experimenting with all kinds of things, that they are actually participants in some kind of discourse that is way up above their heads. They are involved in. But there are also many of them who know what to do with those gadgets and use them.
Yes.
Yes,
it's very amazing. It's been a very amazing conversation because I'm actually very big. I relate more with children. I'll say I'm still a child to you,
yes.
But it's one thing to see the way children are excited to learn. It's one thing to see the way children adapt to maths, verbal, whatever thing you see them. They're interested in this thing. You could see a child drawing. It's a very amazing scene to be in. But finally, what message would you like to leave with the audience as they look forward to your inaugural lecture on Wednesday?
Well, what I'll say is the child has to lead.
Yes.
And we need to allow them space. We need to allow them all the literacies they require. We need to give them support. And I'm sure when you come on Wednesday, you will see some of the areas where you will fit in, and then you will be able to say, indeed, I can assist that child to lead.
Thank you, Professor. On Wednesday, the 10th of September 2025, Professor Grace Nta will mount our podium to teach us, to commune with us, because it will be a very exciting presentation. So don't miss it. Be there, because I will be there. Thank you.
The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Calabar, Professor Florence Banko-Obi, on behalf of the Senate, management and students, cordially extends an invitation to the academic community, distinguished scholars, industry practitioners, students, and the general public to attend the 144th Inaugural Lecture of the University of Calabar. Theme: and a little child shall lead them. Pruning Cobwebs and Child Discourse in a Changing World. This intellectually engaging discourse will be presented by the eminent Professor Eno Grace Nta, a professor of language acquisition and discourse studies from the Department of English and Literary Studies, Faculty of Arts, University of Calabar. Date: Wednesday, 10th September 2025. Time: 3 p.m. Venue: Godswill Akpabio International Conference Center, University of Calabar. Chief host: Professor Florence Banko-Obi, Vice-Chancellor, University of Calabar. Guests of honor: Professor Ekaiti Enang, Chairman, Committee of Deans. Dr. Mrs. Chukwuka I. Icha, Registrar, University of Calabar. Mr. Moses Obuli, the Director of Human Resources and Establishment, Secretary, Committee of Deans, and a host of distinguished dignitaries in attendance. This epochal event will illuminate the complexities of ontogenetic linguistic development and discursive practices within contemporary societal evolution. Don't miss out. See you there.